So welcome. This is the first podcast for STR Like the Best. And I wanted to invite my good friend, Maggie, who I met, Maggie, we met probably like 3-4 months ago.
Yes.
Connected through social media. And the nice thing is we're both from New York. We're both live in New York, and we both came from a finance background and similar education backgrounds. And now we are both in the Airbnb space. So I thought it'd be a good conversation to have, just as people are thinking about short-term rentals, wanting to employ the strategy for themselves for their personal financial goals. I think for you, being fairly new to the space still, and as you're navigating your first full year, be a good way to tell the audience your story.
So it's a huge honor.
Thank you for joining. So why don't we start off with maybe just tell the audience, just give a bit of your background.
Sure. Yeah, as Michael said, I graduated in 2012 and I worked in investment banking for 4 years with Morgan Stanley in their Hong Kong and London offices. And I transitioned to private credit investing for the last 5 years in New York. It was a great experience. I think it really built a solid foundation about the finance knowledge, especially investing, like what makes a good investment. And I came across kind of rental arbitrage actually on social media. And I immediately know, like from the investing perspective, I have never seen other type of investment like this in terms of the capital efficiency, the cash on cash return, and also the ability to scale because you can automate a lot of the business operations. And I was really attracted to it. I just had my first baby and it was very challenging, especially both my husband and I, we work a very demanding job and we don't have any family nearby to help. So it was pretty challenging kind of balancing both work and family. And I started having this idea how I want to be my own boss and I can control my schedule. And at the same time, my husband is still having a corporate job. So he's providing some sort of safety net for the family as well. I have quite a bit of saving from my previous career. So I think it was a pretty good opportunity to jump into.
Yeah.
But it has been only 10 months.
That's great. But like you, and it's pretty amazing the scaling you have been able to do in the last 10 months. Kudos to you for that. And we'll definitely touch on that as we continue the conversation. But I think you brought up a couple of good points there, or a couple of points I wanted to double click on. I think one, leaving a high paying finance job, similar to me, leaving investment banking to do this full time. You obviously have your husband still working, you still have savings, but maybe just touch on that a little bit. What was the thought process of walking away from something that the only thing you've known in your professional life and now doing something pretty new and pretty entrepreneurial or very entrepreneurial? What was the thought process that kind of got you there? Was it as you've seen you're a professional investor and just seeing like, wow, this is just so compelling, or was there something else?
Yeah, I think it is definitely a very compelling model. That's very important because I have been looking at kind of long-term rental. We actually have had our first long-term rental investment in 2020. But we also know that with that kind of yield and also capital requirement, it's not going to replace my income, like maybe a decade or even longer. So I feel like that's not feasible. And of course, we look at like other business model, like we even look at like franchise, like that kind of thing, but they're very capital intensive and probably more risky from that perspective. So I think it was definitely not an easy process, but I also see when you're trading your time for money, there's always like a limit to how much you can make, even as an MD, right? So, how much they make and also the carry or bonus, those are also deferred compensation. So you're not really getting them immediately. There's the time value of money there as well. Exactly. And it's just like the toll on your family as well. You can see that because there's very little flexibility, especially if you're working on deals. That means like working really late, and if your kids are sick, you can't really just take care of your kids or without kind of acting on the work quality.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And for me, it was the 3 freedoms that we really aspired to. It was the financial freedom, the time freedom, location freedom. And I think that's where this business model, outside of just that ability you can make money quickly and get back your capital quick. It's also, you can work from anywhere, right? You can work from, if your child is sick, you can take him to appointments if you need to, and be able to kind of really operate this business just really through your phone if you have everything set up. And it's obviously not day one kind of thing, but
yeah,
it does allow you to, you can see, you have a line of sight to that end goal where you have like location flexibility, the time flexibility. You don't have to be in the office. It's not someone that's maybe a deal that needs to close in a week, like you're sprinting for 20 hours a day trying to do that.
Yeah.
You can really manage your time much more effectively, balancing family and life, which for me was a huge thing. And then you add on the financial aspects of that, which is really powerful. Love to hear from you why was this so compelling versus like long-term rentals franchise? I know you talked about yield and capital efficiency, but for people that aren't as finance focused as us, what maybe you can break it down to, if we're explaining to our parents, like how would you describe this business model?
Long-term rental, maybe people are more familiar because if you live in the East Coast, if you buy a property in New York and then you try to rent it out, the yield is probably like 3% or 4%.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, exactly. So it's just, and you need to put down a huge down payment because the property is so expensive. We bought our own house, but we know that's a liability, right? In Rich Dad Poor Dad term, because we're paying mortgage every month, but we have to buy a house because we want to live here basically. And then we looked at actually Midwest for long-term rentals. So our first property, the yield is actually in the mid-teens, so 15%. Which is really good. And we also bought it before COVID. So it had a 50% appreciation over 2 years. But of course, it's not very expensive. It's just $100K. It's like a pretty...
Yeah, give us the numbers. What does that mean exactly? So, for the audience.
Yeah. So you bought the property for, say, 100. And we actually, for that one, we haven't financed it yet. So it's kind of all cash. The rent you're getting is $1,200 per month, right? You put down $100K. So for the whole year, you're getting probably $15,000. So that's a 15% yield before you finance it. If you finance it, your yield will be higher because you put down less equity.
Exactly. And then 15K, so that's a 15K gross yield. So
that's a really good yield.
Yeah, but you still have property tax. Property tax is water to pay, any kind of maintenance that comes up that you'll be responsible for. It's still, call it, let's use a round number, like 10% net yield.
Sure.
That's not financed. So obviously, if I had like an $80,000 mortgage against it at like 5%, that yield will go up because your invested capital, the money that you have invested in would be less because you would take it out from the mortgage. Excuse me.
Yeah. Bless you.
Now let's contrast that with short-term rentals. So maybe let's talk about just the first one you did. Maybe give some numbers around like how much money in, gross like yield. That'd be great.
Yeah, so I think here we need to make a distinguish between rental arbitrage and owning property. I know, Michael, you have both strategies. So right now I'm purely focused on rental arbitrage because it's easiest to scale. It requires the least amount of capital. But the difficulty there is actually to convince landlord to give you the permission to do Airbnb or short-term rentals. So for my first property, it took me almost 2 months to find the first lead. And I remember the landlord was really angry when I first talked to him because he was looking for a traditional tenant and he think I'm wasting his time. But after 2 months, he couldn't find a good tenant. And I reached out again and he was much more kind of open-minded to the idea. So to give you some number, the rent was $4,100 and I put in around $12,000 for furnishing. It's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom townhouse. And I also use labor to help me set it up. So the labor was probably around $2,000, cement and the cleaner. So all in is around maybe say $15,000. Of course, you need to put down first month's rent as a deposit. And then in the first 10 months, my gross revenue is, I think it's around $110,000 in gross revenue. Yeah.
It's amazing, right? So let's maybe just pause there for a second. So doing $110,000 on 10 months. So if let's just add on a little bit to account for 2 more months. So let's say you do, let's just make the math easy, $120,000 and your rent is $4,100 a month. So quick math, right? That is less, let's just say $50,000. So you already have $70,000 of gross profit. So to say profit after, or gross revenue after rent. So that's a lot of room to play for. You obviously need to pay for your cleaning.
Yes.
You have to pay for utilities, your water, electricity, and other kind of operating costs. But there's just nothing else like this in traditional real estate investing where you get that kind of yield. And actively, you can get all your in your case, you've got all your cash out in the first 6 months, let's say, and your cash flowing. So if we were to say cash on cash, it's infinite right now because your denominator is zero. There's actually an error function because you don't have any money in that property anymore. Obviously, you have the liability on that lease, but that lease actually is valuable. But you're doing $12,000 of revenue per month on $4,100 of rent, which is amazing. Which is amazing, right? Which, just to reemphasize, like, that is really something that you don't see anywhere else in real estate investing. Not even real estate investing, but just any kind of investing. Like most kind of operating businesses or hospitality businesses, that margin is just unheard of. And if you don't actually see it, it's hard to believe. So it's funny when you talk to other people, they're like, oh, I don't know, that sounds weird. But when you do it yourself, you're like, wow, like this is actually real. And I went through that exact same journey a few years before you, but we've grown now to 20 properties in Philadelphia. We have 6 properties, vacation rental properties that we own in Tennessee. Been able to take that arbitrage profit, reinvest it into properties that we own. For us, that's always been the goal. Our view on building long-term compounding long-term wealth is through real estate. And there's a bunch of tax benefits, and one, you get the benefit of the property appreciating, right? And then you get the tax benefits from depreciation. Yeah. And one thing people don't talk about is you have control. No, your landlord, you have a lease, but at the end of the lease, they can say, no, we don't want, thank you for renting for us, but we want to do it ourselves now. And now you're stuck with a liability with your furniture. You have to find a home for it and get it working for you again. You own it, like to your point about buying a house, like no one can ever kick you out of your own primary residence. And I think with arbitrage, I wouldn't say the fallacy of it, but that is definitely a risk that it's not a forever stream of cash flow versus owning your own stuff, right? And so really combining the two strategies is really powerful. We're able to get the operating expertise from the arbitrage for the low amount of capital up front, learn the business, and then take that knowledge and scale it to buying your own properties. So that's great. Congratulations on a very excellent first investment. Tell us about now, like where are you now in your journey?
Yeah, so I launched 4 properties last year. So the second property was launched in June, and then the third one in September, the fourth one in October. All 4 properties, I would say, are doing pretty well. Of course, and some were launched in the slow season, so it takes a little bit of time to ramp up. But the first 3 properties were doing really well. And excellent. I think, I already built up a pretty good review base. So hopefully this year will be the first year that all of them will have hopefully full year of operation. And I'm pretty excited to see what they can bring. And of course, continue to grow, but definitely learn a lot from Michael, how to automate. And the important thing is really to delegate. I think the first delegation you always do is cleaning, because I'm remotely managing the property, so there's no way I can clean those properties.
Nor would you want to be fair.
Right?
Nor would you want to.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not a good use of your time. And of course, also like kind of property maintenance, that kind of stuff, you should all outsource them. But I think the next thing I really need to outsource is customer service. I always feel like my customer service makes a difference. Maybe I have that natural kind of instinct to be I'll have sympathy, that kind of stuff. But I really want to find people who have that kind of personality as well, and to take over from me so I can focus on growth.
Yeah. And it just the third and fourth properties, when you need that first virtual assistant to take that off, it just becomes too much to handle candidly for one person. But let's talk about that. You live in New York and your properties aren't in New York, right? 2 hours away from New York City. Yeah. You have a child, you have other kind of responsibilities. How have you been able, actually, I'm going to take a step back. How are you able to get over that mental block of, man, I'm not there, something goes wrong, what happens? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think when I first started, I know this market, like the New York market, or it's not a good market to start. So I already convinced myself, like, I need to manage this remotely. So that's from day one. I never had the mindset that, if it doesn't work, I'll come back and do something local. Like, just block out that option. And then I think you always turn over a few like cleaners or like handyman. Like you don't have the expectation that you're going to find the right person from the beginning. So treat every kind of opportunity as like a learning opportunity, or see who actually works better for you or whose personality fits you better or fits your business better. And then also tell them like you are also helping them to grow the business. I think that's the most important thing. You're trying to build a relationship, not like a transaction experience. So for my cleaner, like she actually appreciate me. She gets a lot of new businesses from me. I also use her to set up my property. So I think she told me like her business grew a lot because of her relationship with me. Of course, she makes mistakes and I'm trying not to just look at her mistakes, but I'm trying to help her grow as well. As human, right? We all make mistakes.
Exactly.
But those are very subtle things which I didn't really learn much from my previous job because I was doing a lot more analysis and running the deal yourself. And maybe you manage an analyst or two, but I feel like managing cleaning operation, it's like very different. So that's something you really need to learn. And you need to try to understand like how people think. It's all about the human psychology.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think especially like working in a like kind of high-end professional services, it's a very different way of managing versus managing, I would say, in the real world.
Yeah.
The human aspect is a lot more, is critical.
Yeah.
They're not motivated. It's not just about the bonus or dollar and cents or the carry at the end of the day. It's actually like, you need to thank them, appreciate them.
Yes,
I think that is actually something that most people they either don't understand or don't understand the importance of. If your cleaner is the most important person, especially if you're managing remotely, they're the eyes and ears of your business.
Yes.
They are the closest to your guests because they're the ones cleaning.
The report damages, very important.
Yeah. And how they care about your business and your property has a humongous impact on how you are going to perform. Because if they don't clean it properly, they miss a cleaning, your reviews go down, and it's just kind of a vicious cycle down. But to the extent that you can do that up front, and to your point, like it's hard to have the expectation that you're going to get it right the first time, but just learning from that, and then the next cleaner being able to manage that better is an absolutely critical part of the business. But I guess it's like when you said you closed off that possibility even before you started, you just talk about that actually, because I think that's where a lot of people that's a huge roadblock for people. It's accepting that for people, especially if you're managing remotely, accepting that you can't be there.
Yeah.
Was there like a thought process? Was there like a journey that you went through on that? Or was that just, hey, like, all right, I'm not going to be there. So I'm going to accept that and just move forward. Or was there like a journey that you went through to
So I think,
get there?
I think there is a journey. And I think what I try to do is initially, like, for example, for the setup, like I try to be there. And now I try not to be there even for the setup, which I know it's extremely hard. Like I still have to go there for the final inspection. But for my third and fourth property, I really worked out a process where I was not there for the first kind of 3 days of setup. And I just went there for the last day for the photo shoot. And I think that really gave me the confidence is, hey, if I can do the setup remotely, like literally anything else I can do. Like I'm trying also to do like quality control myself, but I realized, hey, why not just give it to the cleaner? And I frame it as, hey, I'm trying to give you more opportunity to learn new skills. And of course, you have to find someone who is intrinsically motivated.
Exactly.
Who want to grow their business. Yeah.
That's great. It's great you found a partner that just doesn't think of themselves as a cleaner and think of themselves as operating a cleaning business. So I think that's different. Like where you meet people that are just like, I'm a cleaner. No, like you are especially if they're like, it's their business. Like you're a business owner that's like cleaning right now, but as you scale, you're going to hire more cleaners and build a business for yourself. We went through a very similar journey in Philadelphia. We found someone on Craigslist, actually, David Tanisha. Okay. And we've been able to grow the business with them. We were lucky enough that we've been able to grow the business from them from day one. And of course, there are mistakes on their part, mistakes on our part. But they always have a mindset of a partnership and building a business for themselves along with us. So I think that is a really important part to get right, is to finding that cleaner that has that kind of that right mentality. It's going to just help you grow that much faster.
Yeah, because there's a lot of sorry.
Go ahead.
Maybe go ahead. Because I find there's a lot of cleaners who just want some extra income. But unfortunately, that kind of people will not help you grow, because when they're sick or when they feel they don't like doing the cleaning, they will just tell you like the day before, hey, sorry, I can't be there. And then you become the manager. Like you really need to find backup. Only when I found someone who is really interested, because the first time I talked to my cleaner and she told me, hey, cleaning is $1 billion business. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't talked to anyone in the cleaning who think like an investment banker.
I love it.
Yeah, exactly like him. And I was, wow, that is very interesting. So I think it really takes ownership and proactiveness, right? Otherwise, like people just treat it as some extra income.
Very cool. And TAM for everyone, TAM means like total addressable market.
Addressable market.
It's just a finance term on like how big a market is. So if someone's thinking at that level, then that's someone that, if someone said that to me, oh, wow, okay, I want to work with you because you're already thinking a different way than 99% of other people. So a lot of it's just kind of like mindset too. Yes. Actually, that's what I want to talk about. You and I have had kind of private discussions about this, but mindset, right? As you evolved your mindset from a 9 to 5 a.m. probably at times, but from 9 to 5, from a W-2 to being an entrepreneur. Maybe just talk a little about that journey, about how you were able to do.
You're asking about, you first have a work schedule basically, and now you have to design your day, that kind of transition.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so that was a big change, I have to say. I'm still struggling sometimes a little bit. I think probably the most important thing is to set goals, but I feel like I really need to develop that better. It's almost like setting annual goal, like also like you need to break it down into like monthly goal. I think last year I set a goal, I want to launch a new property every quarter. And I just worked towards that. And I hit it, which felt pretty good. But I feel like this year I probably need to go a little bit more ambitious. And then you need to break it down to weekly. And much better is design your day the day before. But I feel like I didn't really do a good job. Maybe just because my toddler's schedule is very unpredictable sometimes. But I think that's probably the biggest change is because at work, you are given the work. You're working on 3 deals and you have all those cost schedule, blah, blah. And you have like weekly meeting to talk to the investment committee or that kind of stuff. Right now, you almost have to design all those yourself and hold yourself accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's the hard part because I'm doing it. I know you are doing it with your wife. I feel like having a partner gives you accountability. But for me, I feel like I'm having just myself right at the moment. And also my husband is working at 9 to 5. So our schedule is completely different. So I need to kind of do that better and then maybe have business partners to help myself accountable.
Yeah, no, working with a partner definitely helps in accountability, but it's hard. Obviously, being married and building a business together and raising a child together, it's a lot to do. I think that's where Liz and I have done this for so long now. You just have to resolve conflict quickly. You have to divide church and state a little bit. There's a work life and there's a home life, and try not to let the two commingle to the best you can. But for us too, it's also, it was a big financial risk for us. Just like we're both in this business. We obviously have our savings, but this is like our main thing, kind of like it has to work.
Yeah.
And so
that's a great mindset. If something has to work, I think everyone will make it work.
Yeah. It's Cortez when he burned the boats. You just like, all right, look, we're here. Like it's either we're here, like we're here now. So either we live or die on like with this business, not to put it in like morbid terms, but it really is, there's no way back. This is the way we think about it. It's just like we have to make, and I think actually it's a good mindset because like it really sparks your creativity. Maybe just that fight or flight mindset in your head. Like there's no flight anymore. It's like, all right, like we're just going to figure this out. And for us, a lot of it was just during COVID. We were operating during COVID, and in that it was like March 17th or 18th. It was like, wow, empty calendar and a bunch of properties that we need to fill.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That must be pretty scary, especially. You don't really know what's going to happen. It's all the uncertainty.
And I think that's where it's like planning day by day was really helpful. Just like, all right, the night before, like, all right, we need to do X, Y, and Z. We don't know if it works, but let's just put our heads together. Like, what would give us the highest probability for success, and just need to drive that and then iterate it, but figure out what would work. For us, it was like going on Facebook groups and trying to find like students at UPenn or in the universities around Philadelphia. That there were people that were stuck that couldn't leave and needed housing. So that was where, even though it wasn't profitable, at least kept the lights on. Yeah. And I think for us, and another key learning was like, nothing lasts forever kind of thing, like good times and bad times. So if you're in a good time, also just remember, like, it's not going to last forever, and plan for when things aren't as great. And when things are bad, also just know that, like, it will turn around. And there really is, if you can outlast the competition, like, you will win. And part of it's just like survival. If you can survive, and COVID, it was the 6 to 8 weeks. If you could survive that 6 to 8 weeks, cut the losers and just focus on the winners. And then that's where you can really, I think that's how we survived. And it's more like a global lesson. It's just like outlasting the competition, because eventually it will turn. And if you're there when the demand comes back and there's a lot less supply, then that's when you can get the outsized returns. And it'll more than make, I mean, for us, it's more than made up for the few weeks of losses. And we've had 2 years of really good performance with the COVID or the opening of COVID. And so I think let's maybe change the conversation. As we're looking into 2023, or we're now in 2023, there's obviously economic uncertainty. How are you thinking about that for your business?
Yeah, I think definitely a lot of people talk about that. But I really think from my perspective, first of all, I see a lot of demand. I wouldn't say those are discretionary travel. I feel like a lot of that is actually necessary travel, because like people actually are visiting like family or that kind of stuff, like in the area. And there's usually like people traveling in slightly larger group or 3 generations. So that's a lot of my clientele. And compared to hotels, this is just a much better product because people can stay together. Because I focus on larger houses in that area, I figure out that's where the demand, and it's much more affordable on a per person basis. So I feel like even if there is a recession, you still want to see your family once a year.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be discretionary travel when you have more money or whatever, traveling to Miami. I don't know. That's kind of my perspective for the particular demand in my area. And another demand that I'm seeing is really local residents. Like I had for my second property, I actually had a 3 months booking from a family who was like renovating their house. I actually got quite a bit of inquiry in that aspect as well. Those are great booking. No vacancy. And also they actually pay more money because there's much less inventory that has that availability. People need to renovate houses, or they're just like a lot of large like mansions, that kind of stuff in the area. So I feel like that will be also a pretty good demand. You just need to know how to like capture that, maybe through some like temporary housing, like intermediary or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not too worried. Like right now, I feel like I'm already getting quite a bit of inquiry for the summer or like May. Let's see. But I'm not too concerned at the moment. You can always dynamically price your inventory. Right? The margin is pretty fat. There's always room for you to lower the price.
Exactly. Let Airbnb or your landlord hear that, though. Okay.
Oh yeah, of course.
This is our little secret here. So look, I think you bring up a really good point. As in knowing your avatar, like knowing who your customer is, knowing the customer avatar that you're going after. And it's hard to do like from the outside. Maybe your first property is a little harder because you don't know, but and that is the key, just getting started with something. And then you actually learn a market. You get information that just doesn't exist anywhere else. You kind of see, oh, okay. And for you, I got this house, I got this first property, and I'm seeing this type of demand. I'm seeing big families come, renovations, etc. It's like, okay, now I know that like, this kind of property works. Or, oh, maybe I need to get like a 5-bedroom or 6-bedroom that like I have all these people that are coming in. So it really helps educate you as an entrepreneur that knowing who your customer set is. And part of that is just like getting in, and then also just like knowing, being close to the business, at least early on, knowing who that customer is, so that when you expand and build your inventory, that what type of customer is one that you like working with, two fits that geography the best.
Yeah, every geography I notice, it's pretty different because
it really
depends on what is actually in the area and what kind of attraction, like if there's like wedding venues so it's pretty interesting. And before you actually gather all those data, like from real operations, it's pretty hard to know just by doing some desktop research.
Exactly. You have to know. And then that's why I was encourage people, your first property usually isn't your best property. It's just like getting started. And once you get started, you'll see, it just completely opens your eyes to the business, and you'll be able to grow from that. But just like going from 0 to 1, that Peter Thiel book, like it really is like that 0 to 1 is the hardest thing. But once so many people get caught up into desktop analysis and like analysis paralysis, but like just getting that first one up running, even if it's a 1-bedroom, doesn't really matter. Just get something that's, obviously you need to do the work and make sure the market is right, underwrite the property. Once you're in the game, like you are now like in a very select group, And if you can grow that, then you really can build a business for yourself. And I don't discount how hard it is to build a business. It's very difficult to build a successful business, and you can get that feedback very quickly and with not a lot of capital up front. So there aren't very few businesses that have that kind of dynamic. If you do a franchise, for example, you're paying that franchise fee, which is the 5 figures, you're going to build out the place, and like it's a lot of capital up front, and you're just not going to make that money back that quickly. You're not going to get the feedback that quickly. But this you can. And you don't need
months. Yeah, franchise take 3 to 4 years just to get your money back. Yes.
It's a long payback period. Uh-huh. So I guess as we wind down the conversation, what are your personal plans for yourself? What is that 2023 program? Yeah. Growth program look for Maggie?
So I think 2023, I'm operating in 2 cities. They are adjacent to each other. I feel like probably have the potential to at least like double or maybe grow to 10 properties in the area. And that will give me a pretty good base or foundation. And I feel like I can also maybe hire just someone to help me manage that city, whether it's an offshore manager or someone local. And then I really want to start getting into like acquiring properties, not something new because I bought my house and also bought a long-term rental, but I need to figure out the market to buy vacation rental properties. I really feel like what you said, like it has to be a market that has a history of being friendly, especially from the regulation perspective, because that's a pretty big risk. But I'm not very familiar with those markets yet. Okay. So maybe figuring out a market to buy, and maybe somewhere we want to travel and have vacation too. So it can be used for personal.
Yeah. That's the next level. That's the next level on this investing journey is buying. And it is a very different lens that you look at because you own that effort. You're going to own that asset, and that market selection is much more important. On a relative basis, much more important than arbitrage. Because arbitrage, it's more. In the end, it's just the furniture. You need to move out to a different market if it doesn't work, which isn't the end of the world. But you can't once you sign that mortgage, like it's yours. And the way that we think about it, we call it the AFLAC method, how we've designed the strategy for ourselves. So AFLAC means A for arbitrage, FL for cash flow. So you arbitrage, you get the cash flow, then you acquire properties. Yeah. And then the C is cost seg, which is just another way of saying tax efficiency. So the really nice piece about it is if you buy and you arbitrage properties that you buy, there's some tax benefits that you can unlock, that you can defer all your federal tax liability. And if you have a high earning spouse like yourself, you can also defer his or hers liability, which is like amazing. It's nothing else like this. And that ROI is immediate, right? If your husband makes or your partner makes $1 million a year and paying 40% taxes, it's $400,000 in taxes. Maybe you can shield half of that. That's an immediate tax saving of $200,000. That's not really dependent on anything else. It's once you have a strategy locked down, that's immediate ROI. It just makes everything. It makes the math so much more compelling. So that for us that was that kind of aha moment for us. Oh wow, this is something we really need to double click on. And for us, we're going to continue to grow the arbitrage portfolio. We think that rents have come down. Landlord, there's a lot more multifamily inventory on the market, so there's a little more flexibility there on getting properties, getting the right deals, and then reinvesting that cash flow into properties. Properties are a little harder to find right now, just given rates at 6.5. Prices have increased 30-40% from 2 years ago, so that math is a lot harder. But there's still stuff out there. There's still inventory out there that still makes sense. It's just harder to find, but it's definitely still out there. So I think for us, that's the challenge in 2023 is to continue to grow the arbitrage portfolio and then to buy properties and continue to enjoy those tax benefits because they're not going to last forever. Bonus depreciation was 100% 2020. Now it's 80% in 2023. It's going to go to 60, 2024, 40, 20, and then goes to 0. So 80% is still extremely compelling. But the longer you wait, those benefits, they will diminish as time goes on. And who knows, tax policy can always change, but I wouldn't underwrite against that. 80% is still extremely compelling. Not 100%, but still very good. So I asked one final question to all of the first kind of official podcast, but as I've done this with some other, I do ask the final question. Look, building a business is a team sport, and it's a journey. And what is the kindest thing that someone's done for you along this journey that's helped you with that's helped you get to where you are today?
Wow, there are a lot. I felt really lucky. Can I say a few?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like I had a really good landlords. Very lucky, like all four of them. So four different landlords. I think they're very supportive. First, I didn't have much track record, and I think they are very supportive. They like to support, especially young women entrepreneurs. And I think they are just very responsive as a landlord, and I really appreciate because of the nature of the business. When there's repair or issues, like you have to respond quickly, and all of them did a great job so far. So I really appreciate that relationship, and I think for me, the thing I can do in return is just to take really good care of their property and much better than the long-term tenant. And that was my promise to them. And I think another thing is I built a great relationship with the local real estate agent. She was like a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. She raised two great kids, and then she started her own business, and she really treated me like a daughter. So she always like tell me like she's very proud of me, like all that kind of stuff. Like people don't say that like to a client. So I really appreciate that. Because there's definitely moments where I doubted, hey, like I left the job. Like I feel everyone is trying to build a resume while I'm like trying to build a business. So like very different. But I think her perspective really gave me encouragement and kind of confidence. And I appreciate that encouragement.
That's right. Yeah, it's the old saying, if you want to move fast, you move by yourself. But if you want to go far, you need a team. And kudos to you for building great relationships with your landlords and with realtors, and something like your cleaner, a great relationship with your cleaner as well. So
definitely cleaner. Yes.
And the supportive husband, like again, for me and Liz, like just having that support, even though we both work on the business, just be supportive of each other. Again, you're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, and having someone there to be supportive, whether they're working in the business with you or just working life together, that's powerful. So what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I do have an Instagram account, Tigress Ross, but I'm thinking of setting up maybe a more professional account on Instagram, even though I'm pretty late to the social media game, not very active, but I really feel like now social media is actually a great way to build a personal brand. So maybe I'll be more active. Maybe I'll start sharing more my experience, even though I just feel like I'm still not very experienced at all. It's still really on the learning journey, but I think everyone has something to share, no matter how experienced you are.
Absolutely. Like you're in the 95th percentile of operators with 4 units, right? And that's a factual statement. If you look into Airbnbs, like less than 5% of hosts have more than 3 properties. You're already there. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. And thank you very much for spending the time today to tell your story.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you, but I really appreciate this opportunity. I think you guys are building a great community, and I think especially the free knowledge that you guys are sharing, I think it's really helpful. So you should keep doing this.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to say. We're learning the social media. We're on the social media journey as well, but it's been great to tell the story and to meet great people. And I connected through Instagram, just meeting like a lot of really good people. And it's encouraging for us, the journey for us, like just hearing other people being successful. It makes us want to run faster, run harder too. Yeah, no, really, I'm sure we'll continue to talk, but thank you again for joining me today. And that was the first episode of STR Like the Best. Thank you for being the first guest.
Thank you. It was a huge pleasure. I didn't know I'm the first guest. But
you're the first guest.
Yeah. Have a good